going to talk a little bit about my 2016 Jeep Wrangler JK Unlimited Rubicon with the Hard Rock package. I bought it in June of 2016. It's currently 3 years, 1 month from purchase. I want to talk about the good, the bad, and the ugly. Things I like, things I dislike. 2016 Wrangler Rubicon Unlimited with the Hard Rock package. The Hard Rock package adds this step onto the standard Rubicon slider. It's a black gas filler door. It's hot as hell out here today. The 10th anniversary bumper, steel, plastic insert that comes out. The red tow hooks, red Rubicon shocks. All the wheels have this little symbol on them. Got to change that, huh? The Hard Rock package came with these gray or different color wheels than the standard Rubicon. I added the stubby antenna, rear bumpers, 10th anniversary bumper, solid. Ask my wife how I know that. Tenth anniversary front bumper, steel. The outer section comes apart. Remove the bolts and it becomes a stubby. I added the winch. I'm running stock suspension right now. I added the grill, obviously, which I'm going to get into that in a minute. Under the hood, there's a S-Pod clone. So some of this wiring I had to add in here when I added in the S-Pod, or this is actually a knockoff of an S-Pod. Up here I've got my light switches mounted. Still got 3 more. Right now I'm running the stock wheels and stock suspension. I've added the antenna, the spots, the 50-inch light bar, the brackets for them, the winch. This is a Contour Roam 3 action cam. I tried to keep the engine bay clean. It's tough when you go through some of these areas down here where it's just full of mud. It gets into everything, it destroys everything. Power dome hood is not functional. There's a couple small cutouts in it. You could probably make it functional. The little American ingenuity. Got some more wounds. I like the white painted fenders, even though I knew it was going to get hammered. There was no way I was going to be able to keep them safe. So the Hard Rock package came with this steel plate. Hard to get a good shot of it. See, it's got a drain hole. Vehicle's been good to me. Got about 36,000 miles on it now, a little over. So over here we've got the sway bar, the axle lock switches. Down here, obviously you've got the nav system, the radio and all that. The AC, heated seats, which how often I'll use that in Florida, I can't really say. I haven't really used them too often. Traction off, hill descent, the plugs, passenger heater. Typically I like standards, but with this, knowing that on occasion my wife would be driving it, I wanted to make it a little bit easier, so I went with the automatic. The interior, the Sunrider top is a huge upgrade over that canvas top that was running on the other Jeeps I had. Now granted, if you want the entire top off, you've got to get somebody to help you lift that back portion off. But most of the time I'm running by myself, so I can pull off the driver panel whenever I want and just stick it in behind the back seat. It did come with the bags to hold the tops in. I typically just put it in, leaning up against the back seat with a towel there. Keeps everything from getting marred. It doesn't bounce around. I've heard that only the Hard Rocks came with in 2016, only the Hard Rocks came with the red outline around the lettering of the Rubicon. I don't know how accurate that is. Some of the other things that I liked about it were the tow hooks. The red tow hooks really stand out. So the bumper. One of the things I liked about the bumper is the way that the winch mounts down into the bumper, not up on top of it. Completely stock suspension. Steel bumpers. I added the winch. Very happy with that bumper. So the things that I've actually added have been the rear taillight guards, the 50-inch bar, the brackets, 2 spots, the winch, the antenna, the sliders came stock, the black gas door, filler door came stock, the grill I put on there, obviously. A little deeper than it looked. The lightning. Let's go this way. This is not my everyday driver. It sits in the garage most of the week. I'll try and get it out on weekends, drive it somewhere and do some wheeling once in a while during the week after work, but typically it's in the garage. I've made a couple long distance trips in it, up to the Smokies from here, which is about 14 hours, all over the state of Florida, 4 or 5 hour trips, 2 hour trips here. So it does a lot of driving on the highway. Typically though, when I'm driving somewhere, I'm driving there to wheel. This is South Florida, Southwest Florida. So it rains. Rainy season starts about the end of May, runs through October. But any day in this Rubicon, rain, shine, who cares? I'm ready for it. That's how it rains in Florida. I'll drive this more during the rainy season, and I'll drive the Viper more during the cool weather. But I do like to take this out during the cool weather out into the trails, because when it's dry season, there's a lot more trails available to go on. The TJ took a beating down here because of it. These guys are out here doing some, all right. There you go. That's how it's done. Oh yeah, how about you guys? Yeah, good to see you. I'm out in the Jeep, so I'm happy. Yeah. I hear you. The good, the bad, and the ugly. I'm going to start with the ugly. The ugly part of the Jeep. The things that are just despicable or should have never been. First, right off, are the headlights. This is a 2016 Rubicon Hard Rock Unlimited, which is the top of the line for that year for Wranglers. And it has no LED headlights, and it has no backup camera. That is just unforgivable, especially the lights, because this thing is meant to go off-road, and they give you lights that the lights in a 62 Volkswagen Bug work better than the lights in this thing do now. That's why the 50-inch bar and the 2-inch spots come in so handy, especially at night around here. Whoa. So the stock headlights in a 2016 Wrangler Unlimited Rubicon Hard Rock are pathetic. They're basically useless on any dark road at night. I mean, my 77 MG Midget had better lights than this thing does. I mean, it just blows my mind that Jeep goes through all this trouble and then puts in these crappy headlights. Even if you're not going to use LEDs, use a better freaking light. Just, anyway. So the stock headlights suck. I've had 3 instances issues with the vehicle so far in those 36,000 miles. Twice I've had a rear speed sensor go out, and once I had the alternator replaced. I went through some water that I didn't consider that deep, and a day later the alternator started squealing like a pig and was definitely going to lock up. That was at, I don't know, I think around 12,000 miles, somewhere in there. That was deep. The second issue I had somewhere around 14 or 15,000 miles, and before I knew what this was, it was a rear right sensor, speed sensor. My ABS came on, my traction control came on, I went to drive and it immediately stopped me right where I was. It wouldn't even let me go. I don't remember how it let off for a few minutes or something, and I was able to drive it into a parking lot. I was able to somehow get it to move into a parking spot. Had it towed to the dealer. It was under warranty still. And it was the right rear speed sensor had to be replaced. Now, 2 weeks ago, I was up at a park doing a little mudding, maybe 15 minutes, nothing crazy. Got on the highway to come home and my light came on. This time it let me make it to 50 miles home. I actually took it, washed the vehicle really good to make sure there wasn't something in the sensor, as best as I could at least. Still had the issue, cleared it, it still came back. I replaced the sensor myself a couple days ago. When I did that, I found out that the dealer that replaced the sensor the last time busted the lock, so it was stuck in there, but it wasn't, the red piece that pulls out was stuck in there, but it doesn't lock in. I ended up having to devise a way to keep it in there, but I'm going to end up, just to be safe, replacing that entire cable for that stinking connection. Here I am, have to top off, air conditioning cruising, can't beat it. The bad is, this is a Rubicon, it's got the front electronic sway bar disconnects. The placement of the plug. So this is a Hard Rock edition. The electrical connector for the sway bar disconnect. And when I first got this vehicle, I had a hell of a time where I would be on the highway sometimes, and after I wheeled for a while, and then all of a sudden I would get all kinds of lights flashing on the dash. My speedometer would go crazy, lights would flash, things just weren't right. It would stop, it would come and go. Well, it ends up that that connector, even though it was tight, was full of powdery dust. The electrical connector is just mounted in a bad spot, and it's almost horizontal in there. So you would think, but powder gets everywhere. So I ended up cleaning the connections really good up and threw a bunch of dielectric grease around it and sealed it up really good, and it seems to be holding. That was within the first few thousand miles it happened. I also got a couple, at one time in the beginning, got a couple of the multi-cylinder misfires happening. It was always seemed to be the same thing. Sometimes a cold start first thing in the day, it would get it. And I just went around, tightened everything up. That kind of went away too. So that would be the bad. Pretty flooded right now, even though rainy season really just kicked in a few weeks ago. watch, these holes can sometimes be a lot deeper than you think they are. Normally you can go through there, but I'm not. Some of the other issues I have are due to my own doing, like this 50-inch light bar, which I love when I'm on the back roads at night or out at night on a dirt road somewhere. It's great. The spots, the same things, but that 50-inch light bar makes unbelievable amounts of noise when you're on the highway. I added the 2-inch spots in the 50-inch light bar, my mirror cam, and on the highway, you know, 55 and over, you can't even hear it. The person next to you. So back to the Jeep. So let's talk about the good. It's an awesome vehicle as far as on-the-road manners for a Jeep. It's incredible the way it drives. I do some serious highway driving sometimes, and this has just amazed me how comfortable it can be and how well it handles for a Jeep. This vehicle has been extremely capable in the mud and the sludge down here during the wet season. Dry season had no issues with it at all. Sand, sugar sand, deep sand, nothing seemed to stop it. It handles the mud really, really well. I'm very happy with the overall fit and finish. Has been good. It's been durable. It cleans up nice. Once again, I have to say the mats, which I never really cared about until this vehicle, you know, like actually buying mats with the vehicle. What a huge difference those mats make. The molded mats, the Jeep mats, fit perfect. They have kept those rugs so incredibly clean, and they're so easy to pull out of there and rinse off. Trying to keep things at a nice clean level. My dog comes in here, so there gets hair everywhere. So the vehicle has been very reliable, considering it's off-road as much. Well, I wouldn't say as much as on-road, but it doesn't get daily driven. I don't drive it just around typically. If I drive it somewhere, I'm driving it to wheel it. I try to stay out of the really, really deep, nasty sand, mud, water mixes because those kill everything. But down here in Florida, it's hard not to. And in South Florida here, everything is limestone, and the water eats away at the metal, corrodes everything instantly, discolors it instantly. So you got to pick and choose your battles. Traction control is on. Whenever the traction control is on, you can feel it cutting in too early. And I always forget when I start playing around to turn it off. So I think the more experienced people will probably want it off, so you can actually feel what your vehicle is doing. Alright, playtime's over. I changed the oil myself, changed the filter myself, general maintenance and all that. Especially, I prefer to do my own vehicle at least as much of it as I can without a lift at the house. It gets rough, but with the Jeep, it's oil changes. This thing is the easiest oil change I've ever done. Literally 15 minutes. It's Alligator Alley right there. This is one of those canals you see when you're crossing from Naples to Fort Lauderdale. It's loaded with fish, gators, snakes. On the other side of the alley there is Picayune Strand State Forest, Big Cypress, the Everglades. When you get to this point, you're in it. You're in it deep. Beautiful Sunday afternoon. Wrapping up the day. Look at the opposite bank. We're about 4 feet, 5 feet below where we should be during rainy season, or where we will be during rainy season.